What's up, everybody? This is Travis. I had the best conversation today, and I wanted to share it with you guys. It's on the topic of goals. I ended up sitting down with the TBI students for lunch, and I caught a glimpse of their worksheet, some homework. And on the worksheet, it said goals. So I said, hey, what's your worksheet about? And they said, well, we're writing out goals for the year, goals for the month, goals for the week, and goals for the day. So I said, wow, what are your goals for the year? And he started telling me some things that were on his list. And I was like, well, listen, if your goals for your year and your goals for your day don't match up, then don't expect to get that yearly goal done, because a yearly goal probably takes some consistency. You want to lose weight. You want to live your best life. You want to save money. All of these things don't just casually happen. You got to be intentional. New Year's resolutions are the funniest things, because literally the New Year's resolution that you made this year, you've probably had for a couple years. I want to lose 20 pounds this year, and I want to have abs, and I want to be in shape. And like we make all of these goals, but then we don't have any action steps to like do them, you know, or we don't, honestly, we just don't take them seriously. Or if we're being super transparent, we don't take ourselves seriously. By no means is this like a 1, 2, 3 on what you should do. I want these talks to be more conversational than inspirational, and maybe, just maybe, a light bulb will go off in your head, and you'll be able to say, oh wow, maybe I can do that, or I see this differently now. So I want to tell you guys a story that really impressed me. It's a story about Warren Buffett. And if you don't know who Warren Buffett is, you can do a quick Google search and you'll see his company, Berkshire Hathaway, and he is a self-made billionaire, and he essentially buys businesses for very cheap and is able to see the value in those businesses, build them, and he's made a lot of money. So the guy knows what he's doing, and he knows goals. So he had a conversation with his pilot, and the pilot was flying him around, and Warren went to his pilot and said, hey, how long have you worked for me for? And the pilot said, well, sir, I have worked for you for 10 years. And so Warren said, 10 years? That's too long. You haven't learned anything, because if you see the way that I operate and how I do my business, you should be able to do that same thing and have success for yourself. Because Warren Buffett is an investor. Surely this guy, he's been working for Warren. He must have learned something about investing. So Warren said, I want to sit down with you and I want to go over your priorities and teach you something. So he ended up sitting down with his pilot and he said, okay, here's what you're going to do. You're going to write out 25 things that you want to do in your life. And so the pilot was like, oh, wow, just 25 things? And Warren was like, yes, 25 things. So he prioritized 25 things that he wanted to do. And Warren said, okay, so out of those 25 things now, pick 5 of them, your top 5 priorities. And so the pilot ended up looking at all of his goals and all of the things that he wanted to do, and he ended up picking 5. So Warren asked him, he said, okay, now that you have your 5, what do you think you need to do with the other 20? And the pilot said, well, I guess I'll focus on my main 5, and when I have spare time, I'll invest my spare time into the other 20 things. And Warren said, no, you don't understand. Those 5 things that are the most important goals to you, you need to get those done and avoid the other 20 at all costs. And the lesson here is we make our lists so big and then we wonder why we can't get anything done, because we're not able to focus on a few things, get them to the finish line. We're more impressed telling people about our lists. Like, we're more comfortable talking about the things that we want to do and talking about where we want to go. But when it comes down to actually prioritizing it, taking action steps and being able to do it, we have trouble. Because we love talking about the things that we want to do more than we actually like doing the things that we talk about us wanting to do. Like, we don't want to do it. We just want to talk about it. Like, the thing that gets me the most excited at this point in my life is getting things off of my list. It's the most invigorating feeling not having to think about something anymore because I'm done with it. It doesn't take up any real estate in my brain, and I can focus on my priorities, what's next on my list. And that's my Gary V rant, okay? Like, we like talking about things more than we actually like doing them. It's so true. We're all guilty. I'm guilty. I'm definitely guilty. There are so many things I want to do, and I talk about them, but your goals really should come from your priorities. We're going to go a little bit deeper. So we started with a list of things that we want to do with our lives, but how many of those things are actually like a priority to us? Like, are you able to single out the individual items and be able to say, okay, this is definitely more important than this. Like, if I don't get this done, it's okay, but I gotta get this done. Pastor Peter, who's an awesome guy, I heard him say this and it rocked my world. He said, Lord, there's so much that you want to do this year. There's no way that we can get it all done. So show us how to pick the right priorities. And your goals should really stem from your priorities. What's important to you? Maybe make a list of 5 things that's like, okay, these are my big 5 things that I'm going to focus on. And then match that up with your goals and say, okay, this is what I want to get done. And here is my big 5 things that are my priorities at this season of my life. Your priorities will probably change depending on what season that you're in, whether you're single, whether you're married, and your goals will probably change too. And you should give yourself the flexibility for things that aren't important to get off your list because they didn't make the cut, and that's okay. So you have goals that stem from your priorities. But the bigger overarching thing and the elephant in the room that you might already be thinking about, and if you're not, you should be. Your goals come from your priorities, and your priorities should come from your purpose. Like, what are you put on this earth to do? There's a scenario that I've been running recently, and it has really shook me to the core. The idea that one day I'm going to go into eternity and stand before Jesus. And Jesus is going to look at me and he's going to say, okay, Travis, what did you do for me in your time on the earth? You had all of these years. You had all of this strength. You had this drive. You had this passion. But what did you get done? And if all I can say is, well, Jesus, I worked a job that I didn't like, to pay bills that I didn't like, to pay for a house, but I was able to raise my family, and this is the awkward sort of pause because I didn't do anything else with my life. And I don't want that to be my story. And I definitely don't want that to be your story. But y'all, we have to make our lives count. So you got to understand your purpose to understand what you should be prioritizing, because time is really the most valuable resource that we have. It's the only resource that we can't get back. And I also want to touch on this just while I have the microphone. Like, it is so important for a young person to see another young person serving Jesus, because our time is like so valuable when we're young because we don't have a lot of responsibilities. There's a window of your life, and it's between like the age 25 and 35 where you take on a lot of things all at once. Like, you're 18 and you go off to college, and then you have all of this student loans and debt that you got to pay off. And then you're like, oh, wow, like I sure do have a lot of debt to pay off. Well, I think it's a great time to get married, because you met somebody, or, you're in that season, like, you're like, man, I want to get married. So you have all of these student loans, and then you end up getting married, and then you're married and you're like, oh gosh, like I'm married. I mean, I need a house because like, I want to have a house because I'm married, So then you got a house, and then you've been making your car payment and it's not paid off yet. And you have all of these things going on at the same time. And then you want to have a kid. So in this like 10-year window, you have all of this stuff that you're like paying off, and you're like, oh my gosh. So anyways, if you can catch this while you're young, if you can figure out your purpose, if you can figure out your priorities, it will help you set the right goals and keep your life in the right context. So, just to recap, figure out your purpose. What do you want to say when you stand before Jesus and he says, how did you make your life count for me? What did you do for eternity? How did you make people's lives better? Did you make the world a better place? You're going to have to answer those questions. I won't be able to answer those questions for you because it's your life. You got to be the one. So you have your purpose, and your purpose should drive your priorities. Now, I understand in different seasons of your life, you're going to have to prioritize different things. Like because I'm single, I don't have to prioritize marriage per se, but I do want to make sure that I'm a legit dude and I'm taking care of my stuff so I can go into that season of my life strong. Like I'm very aware that that's where I'm going. I'm going to spend more time on this earth married than I am single. So I don't want to get good at being single. Like I was thinking about that today. Oh my gosh, y'all. Like I am so serious. Like I don't want to get good at being single. I don't want to get good at playing the dating game and getting in somebody's head and trying to like play them games, because I'm not going to spend a bunch of time in this season of my life. Like I'm going to spend more time married than I am single. And I'm going to spend more time in eternity than I am on this earth. So I'm going to keep things in the right context, because just because this is all that I've known, it's where I'm going. So figure out your purpose. Let your purpose drive your priorities, and let your priorities drive your goals. And don't be afraid to say one thing is more important than another thing. Get a few things and get them done. I have a friend that said this quote, and I think it's the best thing ever. But he said, we overestimate what we can do in 1 year, and we underestimate what we can do in 5 years. You got to be in it for the long haul. You got to stick it out. So many times we get discouraged when we didn't get this year's list done, and then we put things back on the shelf when it's like, no, you should have stuck with that thing and got it to the finish line, because it's worth it. It might be worth it. It might be worth it to start that YouTube channel, and it might be worth it to keep on going. It might be worth it to do something that's in your heart, that's something that is in your purpose, so you prioritize it, so you make it a goal. So don't be afraid to pick your priorities. Okay, thank you guys for listening to this conversation. If you liked it, give this video a thumbs up and let me know what you want to hear me talk about next. I know that's a funny thing because you're like, well, I just like you talking, so I don't know if I want you to talk on a specific topic because I don't know what you're good at talking about. I completely get that. So if you like the video, I'll say it again. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you real soon.